Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the In Between Podcast. I'm Jake.
And I'm Leah.
And today we have Abigail and Jess, all the way from Houston, with Houston Clay.
HTX Clay.
HTX Clay.
Yes.
So welcome, guys.
Thank you for having us.
We are so excited that you're here. So for some context, they are some of our first artists in residence of the season of the year. And when y'all reached out, I saw, first of all, your work separately. Like y'all both have, they're both clay artists, sculpture. I mean, it's just what you guys do is beautiful. And your work is so different and just so beautiful independently. And then collectively, what y'all do together, your other body of work is this business that you've started and this community studio for people. And it's super cool, beautifully designed. And I'm just really excited to jump in and talk about who y'all are and what you do and how you got to where you're at. Do you want to start there? Is that where we're going?
All right. Spot.
Who wants to go first? Who are you? What are you? What do you do?
Take it away. Okay. Well, I can speak to HTX Clay first. So we are a membership-based studio within Houston, and we offer ongoing monthly memberships for people who we like to say are clay curious or are already emerging, developing artists who focus on ceramics. And we also offer workshops, lessons for people who just want to drop in and see if they like the medium. And then we just offer lots of community ways for our community to connect over learning. We do. We've only been open for five months.
Almost 5 months.
Yeah. And so it's been an ongoing journey of about 2 years. Jess and I have been working on this and then just opened last year in August. And it has been full and exciting and just tiring too.
Yes.
Yeah. And then individually, I like to call myself an object maker. I do love ceramics, and that is always going to be one of my first loves. But I also, I like the openness that the label object maker creates. And so it doesn't pinhole me to one thing. And I like to work with other materials. I'm currently getting my master's in sculpture. And so sometimes it's wood and metal and mixed material, found objects. And so before this, I was working as an independent artist full time for about 8 years. And that's how Jess and I work, but we can tell that story later if you want to say more about who you are.
Yeah. I kind of came into clay from a non-traditional entry point. I'm a registered nurse by trade. So I was a nurse for about 10 years or so. And then I started working with Abbi as a studio tech or a studio assistant and helping her kind of do things behind the scenes for her business and also learning a lot just from watching her work and asking questions. And of course, she was so generous with her knowledge and her time and just everything that she does. So I worked with her for about 3 years. And through that, I sort of started to fall in love with the medium myself and started to make work myself. So now I do functional work and I have a home studio in Galveston where I live. So that's the short of it. But yeah, different entry point. I didn't go to school for ceramics or like have that traditional training or background. I just kind of found my way into it.
Ceramics. That was the word I was looking for. My mind was blanking and I'm like staring at you guys wide-eyed. Ceramics. Hello.
I mean, all of it. Clay, artist, ceramics, pottery. I
think it's personal what you decide to like call all of that. Like if you're a ceramicist or a potter, it's like up to you.
Object maker.
Yeah, exactly.
I know. I'm like object maker. Well, that term is borrowed from one of my favorite artists, Theaster Gates. And so when he started using that terminology, I was like, that feels appropriate for kind of what I want to be and the trajectory for my work and myself as an artist.
Yeah. So that was Theaster Gates that said that?
Theaster Gates, yeah.
Wow. Love him.
Yeah, me too.
So is he one of your professors or no?
I wish. He actually, I think, is coming to Houston this next year, and I'm like dying to meet him. It would be incredible. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I guess so. I love the story of how y'all met, and then kind of that progression into, I was leaning back, my bad, kind of that progression into opening up a business together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it was a crazy story. I mean, Instagram is a wonderful platform. That's how we met you guys.
Yeah.
And that's how Jess and I met. I had put out a call for just essentially an intern. I was at a place where I just had a lot of work and was really needing help, but definitely didn't have the ability to pay someone full time. And so we kind of did this exchange and this partnership where I was like, I will share everything I know and help if this is something that you want to continue to learn, in exchange for help a couple of days a week in my studio. And Jess was super generous with being like, yes, that's worth it. And I'm like, thank God. And so she had applied and we met and we hit it off. And I mean, she just jumped right in, and it was like super easy. I think we felt a connection right away, just as in like, compatibility as people, and had a lot of the same just like beliefs and thoughts, which was really helpful. And she is a very fast learner and like pays attention to detail, is super detail oriented. And that's how I am within my work. So it was super easy to be like, hey, I need X, Y, and Z. And she'd be like on it. And that's like the dream, like assistant. And then 2020 hit, and during that time I had a really large collaboration with Etsy at the time, and it just kind of wore me out. I think between just like, I mean, the year of 2020 was difficult for many people for many reasons, and life actually didn't slow down for me during that year. I was doing this collaboration, so I was working more than ever at my studio, which I had one other person, but we would stagger our times in the studio. And I was constantly making work. And by the end of 2020, I was super burned out and just doing full-time production work. And I was like, I need to change. Not only does my body need to rest, my mind needs to rest, and I just want to pursue something else. And that's when I approached Jess. I had previously shared with her about this idea about opening a membership-based studio, because currently at the time there was nothing like that in Houston, and it being the 4th largest city in the US, we're like, how is this a thing? Like, this is like such a gap that I feel like we could meet. And I asked Jess, I was like, okay, so just take some time. And I just wanted to see if you might be interested in doing this together, but take all the time that you need. And she was like, I'm in, like immediately. And so really pretty much from that moment, we started meeting pretty much like once a week, and then it went to multiple times a week, just in coffee shops around Houston, at my house, at her house. And we just started dreaming and, figuring out finances and financial projections and what we needed and who we needed to connect with. And I don't know if you would add more to that.
I think I would add that I think I was in the same place you were, just emotionally with my career too. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously healthcare during COVID wasn't amazing to be a part of, and I think I was feeling burned out too. But even before COVID, I was having conversations with Abbi, sometimes in tears, just being like, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I don't want to do this forever. I have a master's in nursing leadership, and I don't want to be a manager. So what am I doing with that? And I was just kind of in this limbo space where I've always wanted a creative career and didn't really know how to access that. So after so many conversations with Abbi, whenever she said and she would bring up this studio idea like every, I don't know, couple of months. And I'd be like, when you're ready, just let me know. I'm ready too. And so I think we were kind of hoping for the same things for our lives at the same time. And then that like synchronicity sort of happened with our lives too. And all the compatibility and like Abbi's strengths and my strengths being very different, because obviously if I have a nursing leadership background, I am a spreadsheet person. I'm like an organizer. I like to like put systems in place. Like that's my jam. And Abbi is such a big thinker and like a visionary type person. So those two roles just marry together so well. So it just worked. Everything clicked.
Wow. Everyone needs their spreadsheet people.
Yes.
And their other people, whatever, visionary people, like you have, you got to have, because I don't know anybody that's all of the things.
You can't be.
We all need some other people to also kind of have checks and balances, because sometimes the visionary may be thinking a little too far off and it's not realistic. It can't happen, and you'll go into debt forever. And
Yeah.
and then sometimes the spreadsheets may need the visionary to kind of pull them up to some other way of thinking. I mean, it's so cool that you guys found each other and have been able to make it work and kind of balance each other out and start something, fill that gap, like you said, that it didn't exist. And y'all kind of filled that gap and created that. And I just think that's so cool.
Yeah. And I also wonder how many other artists or just regular folks who may have an idea for a business, but they don't go through with it because they're missing maybe someone who can fill the gaps that they need. And can you talk a little bit about that? Because you brought that up yesterday. And I thought that was very is an interesting point that you made.
Absolutely.
About Jess and how y'all competed each other.
Yeah. So I can't tell you how many times individually I have tried to work on a business plan and like financial projections, and I get lost in the sauce sometimes and I just can't do it. And so I had, I think honestly, I moved to Houston in 2012, and probably around 2016, I went full-time artist. And then 2018, I was like, it's always been in the back of my mind to open something like this. So I was like, I'm going to do it. And I met with a friend who's, good with that stuff, like financial projections. And she kind of helped me start putting some language to it and some numbers, but deeply got overwhelmed really quickly. And just, there were so many times I started and I just couldn't get past the details of it all. I would get overwhelmed. And my husband's a really detail oriented person, and he's like, I'll help you. But it just he has so much, I had so much, it just didn't work. So this was the first and only time. I mean, it became successful because Jess was able to come in and be like, I don't know, just see the full picture of how we break things down. Like she said, I have big ideas and this is how I want it and this is how I see it and this is the look for it. But to be able to then just break it down into measurables and to break it down into task-oriented goals was really Jess. And she pushed us a lot and was consistent with we're meeting every week. When are we doing this? When are we doing this? And for someone who has big ideas and can be a little flighty and just this and that, it grounded me in a way that I hadn't been able to do it before. And we had a book too that we were reading that was really helpful called Traction by Wickman. Dang it. Every time I can't remember his last name. And it talked about, it is a really good book. And so we do the entrepreneurial operating system for our business. And that gave us the language between visionary and integrator. And those are the two roles that really helped us and stay within our roles now that we're open and we go back to it. Because there's been times when we opened and we're like, I'm feeling super drained. She's like, me too. And we look at what we're doing and it's like, oh, you're doing some of these visionary tasks and you're doing some of these integrator tasks. And that's why we feel so drained. And it puts us to course corrects us in order to go back into okay, so let's go back into our roles where we feel really solid and feel like we're contributing to the business in a way that makes it flourish and makes us feel more just alive. And that's been really helpful too, to have that language and hold each other accountable.
I think that's so important for if I don't know, maybe someone sees this down the road. I hope at least one person will, and maybe they're in your shoes, and to hear that it's not it's very common for that to happen, for people to have these ideas and then not go through because they're just missing someone. But so I just wanted you to talk about that for a little bit in case someone else was out there and they're in a similar situation where they have these ideas, but they don't know what they're missing. They don't know what they don't know, I guess. But you've taken a path, not the only path, but you've taken a path to figure it out for yourself. And, hopefully it'll give them some encouragement and also some insight on what they can do they can find themselves a Jess, or I don't know.
Find
Read it.
yourself a Jess for sure.
Yeah. So
Find yourself an Abby.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean,
really.
it's both ways. Yeah,
It
for sure.
is. I mean, I think that it's funny even whenever we're like, people ask us all the time, like where did all of this come from? And we end up just complimenting the heck out of each other. This conversation ends up being just like no, it was you. No, it was you. We just have so much mutual respect for one another. And like, I see the stuff that Abby does for our business, like the people side of things, the networking, the like thinking of workshop ideas and emailing people to make those connections and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to be doing any of that. And I'm so happy that you do, like that is your strength and I respect it so much. And I trust everything that you're doing, and the trust between us makes it really easy to be able to like make this thing not only work, but be really successful. Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely think that if you are like a big picture person, you need that person and to just ground yourself and allow you to get and to encourage you to like keep thinking big, because I know so many just small business owners just being like a small business owner for myself, just like as my own brand before we started HTX Clay. And there's just so many of them that just get lost in the day to day, and they find themselves stuck in this place where they can't keep moving forward. They're not growing because they're so stuck in the day to day. And so that's one thing that Jess and I always talk about is, and we've only been open 5 months. So, we have a full team of staff, but we are like, I think we need to hire more because we are too in the day-to-day most often, and we're not able to live into those visionary integrator roles. And so I think, but having 2 people to divide that up holds you accountable, and you're able to do that a little bit easier and not get so lost in the day-to-day, but have people too is helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So y'all have very clear kind of roles in the business. How do you define those, and how does that kind of work? You kind of briefly touched on it, but I'm just super curious for like our purpose.
Asking for a friend.
Asking for a friend.
Yeah. I mean, I think that my role kind of boils down to like how you make the ideas happen. And not only that, but just kind of like distilling the ideas into like its broken down parts, like if Abby has an idea for a thing, I'm like, okay, well, how are we going to get staffing for that? Do we have enough toilet paper to, make it through the weekend? And like all those those like detailed things that don't have anything to do with planning the actual event, just like the things that make it continue to be able to happen. I think that I am really good at just sort of like being the support person. And I don't mean that in a way to demean myself, but I love making other people's ideas possible. And I love creating space for other people, like our members, to be able to like flourish and do their thing. And I love making our staff more able to do their jobs really well and to be happy doing them. So that's like, I feel like a support person in a lot of ways, and a detail person,
I think too, the book we were reading was really helpful for us to kind of like you started reading the second book called Rocket Fuel. I still need to read it. But that kind of further differentiates the roles between visionary and integrator. So I think like even just having someone who's like, these are the kind of things that each role should be focusing on, and they hint a little bit at that interaction as well. But I think when we realize like, oh, like I'm big picture, Jess is like, systems and numbers and things that are like detail oriented, that just like really helps us divide them up when it comes to task. And so we're here this weekend talking about last quarter and how we ended, and we're thinking through this whole next year. We sat down today and planned out like our whole calendar for this upcoming year. And so it feels like you don't have time to do these things as business owners, but you have to, because we would just be so overwhelmed and we would not be growing and continuing to evolve as a business and as business owners. And so I think when we sit down at these meetings for annual planning or quarterly meeting recaps or whatever that might be, we make goals, and then we literally sit down and say, okay, is this an integrator role or a visionary role? And we create task and we set deadlines for them. And we use another really great tool called Basecamp, and it basically assigns people to their task and it puts a by-when date on there. And we do weekly meetings as well. So we just create them into to-do tasks for the quarter and the week. And it's literally just like a trickle down. And that really helps us to stay focused within our roles. And we do check-ins quite often, not just for, the business, but with each other. And like, okay, I'm at a 20% this week. And she could be like, well, I'm at 60. So I got you. Like, I'm covering that. Or we'd be like, okay, so why are you at a 20%? And it's like, well, I had to people a lot this week. Jess will be like, I did a lot of peopling. And it's like, okay, like that's, how can we adjust that and get you back into a role to where you're feeling like you're not drained and you're not overwhelmed. And for me, it's like I had to figure out how to do an Excel document, but that's actually not the case anymore because I've been cut off from making Excel spreadsheets. She's like, I don't know what are these formulas.
I'm like, you just sit back. It's fine. It's fine. Just leave it. It's okay.
So knowing our roles has been really, really helpful.
Wow. This Basecamp, is this a software that you can assign tasks and keep track of the task getting done on your end? Is that
Yes.
So the people, your staff, you'll assign these tasks and then you can keep track of what they're doing?
So
Or
we
how does
have,
it-
we
how
have
does it work?
we have a few different platforms. I'll let you speak to that.
Yeah, we on Basecamp, that's what we use for like our leadership team. So we actually do have a studio manager as well, and she's incredible. And in our, perfect world, she is the person that is kind of the go-to for our staff and in the day-to-days. Unfortunately, she's part-time. So sometimes we pick up a lot of those responsibilities or share them with her. But in theory, she takes care of that. So we can go in and create a to-do list for her too. Or we use this feature called pings a lot, where you just kind of like send someone a message about something that might not be like phone call or text worthy, but like want you to see this later. So we do a lot of communicating through that, and you can always like search and go back to things. So that's really nice too, because I will forget something if I don't take care of it right away and it's not written down anywhere. So that's a great system for our staff, because we do have 14 staff members too. Yeah. It's a team.
Wow.
Yeah. And we
That's awesome.
use something called Homebase for that. It's so close to Basecamp. I get them mixed up all the time. But Homebase is kind of what we use for our scheduling, for team messages, for like clocking in and clocking out, for them to be able to trade shifts with people or like look for coverage for a shift. So it's sort of like managing all of our scheduling and some HR as well. So we have those two major systems that we use.
Wow.
Well, and we have one more for our business, for our members, MindBody, which is mostly like a fitness yoga platform, but we had some very unique offerings with our studio that we needed to tweak. And we went through several different, we were like interviewing different companies essentially for what we needed. And MindBody was the one that was like, okay, I think we can tweak these classes essentially to what we do for kiln reservations. So when our members need to firework, they reserve space in our kilns and they get a certain amount every month. And so it just worked out that platform. So we use that for our members, and that's been really helpful for if anything membership based, when people are reserving classes with us, lessons, workshops. Our members have an app where they can scan in and out, almost like a gym membership. So we have a few different really helpful platforms that help keep us organized and that help our members feel in tune and know what's going on. And so it takes a lot of the pressure off of us. And there are things that, we've had to invest in, but in the long term, it helps us feel less sane, like insane, more sane. Yeah.
And it's scalable. I think that was the big thing for us too, is we wanted, or maybe it was me mostly, I wanted to have these things in place that would allow us to grow into what we wanted to be with like relative ease, like if the systems are in place for you to be able to like have the infrastructure to grow, then you don't have to like reinvent your entire business every time you get another 50 members. It's like, it's already there. So that's why it took 2 years for us to open, because we were just like working behind the scenes and like all the funding things, and they have really strict requirements for what you need to be able to show them to be able to like get funding for certain things. So yeah, it was just like a lot of planning and a lot of creating systems for
And
me, which was an integrator thing.
Was a big delay.
Oh yeah, construction
Wow.
too.
Yeah.
My mind is so blown that like you both were exhausted and burnt out from your jobs, and then like you decided to like open a creative
You're
arts
like,
business.
"Let's do
That's gonna
that."
be
Yeah.
the chill thing.
So
But
chill.
it sounds like, I mean, I'm sure there's days maybe that are crazy, but y'all have so many systems in place to kind of mitigate everything that, you know, you're building this like well-oiled machine. And it, like you said, it took 2 years to do it, to even get it on the ground versus kind of our methodology of like, we just jump in head first with zero plans, zero systems. And then we almost, you know, die as we go along. But
the systems we've come up with have been just from our experience and like,
Yeah.
okay, we know this happens. We know we got to do this. How do we, you know, make it easier on ourselves or for someone else to come in behind us to easily do what we're
And
going to do?
It's usually because we've learned the hard way. Like we've
Yeah.
done it wrong. We hit a wall
hard.
and now we have to have a system and we know that's not the way to do it. So this is the
Yeah.
right way. So when y'all are talking, my mind is just like, I can't even imagine.
I know.
Maybe we need a
Yeah.
Jess. You're not it and I'm not it.
Well, I mean, we
No.
definitely have had to learn to pivot with certain things.
Yeah.
Like we've had some surprises. Like we didn't really expect for lessons to be as popular as they are. Like the one-time experiences that we offer, we thought we're a membership studio. That's our bread and butter. Like that's what people are going to sign up for. And lessons have been wildly popular. So we've had to like kind of refine these systems that we didn't really expect to have or need a lot of infrastructure for because they were just like the people were coming, you know, which has been really a nice surprise. But
Yeah.
Now, what's the difference between lessons and membership? Can lessons be part of the membership for like someone who's wanting to learn? Can they sign up to be a member, and then you have lessons for members, or they just participate in lessons, or how does that work for someone who's interested in getting started in it?
So I think the unique thing that I think that we offer is with our memberships, we always offer, and we kind of coined this term, on-demand education. And so what Houston has primarily had in the past and is these like 7 to 8 week long classes where people come in and they take a class once a week and they leave, go home. And I was teaching a class at a studio previously where it was an 8 week long class, and my students would come in for one day for like 2.5 hours, but it wasn't enough time. And I was part of a studio in Atlanta, which has been a big part of helping me kind of think through and share with Jess like this business plan of what I wanted HTX Clay to be. And it was a membership based. And knowing that my students were needing more time in the studio, when we opened this, we were like, well, we want members and we want people to stay here and join. But if they don't know anything about clay, they're going to be intimidated, and there's going to be this wall, like this something blocking them from being able to come in and experience ceramics. And so with the on-demand education, we have what we call clay educators, and they're available anytime we're open. You basically find them. We have like little photos at the front when our members scan in. They can see who's working, who's on duty, or they're wearing like one of our green aprons. And they're like, hey, like, okay, Jess is working today. Jess, I forgot how to trim a bowl, or I've never thrown on the wheel before, or, you know, I don't know how to glaze, or whatever. It could be any question. And our clay educators are super knowledgeable. They've been working with ceramics for many years, and they just jump right in and give on-demand instruction. Which is very unique with some other like open studio access, like membership studios. And then with our lessons, that's for mostly it's non-members who are coming in and are like curious about what it means to throw on the wheel, or they're like, I've seen ghosts, I want to try it, or like whatever it might be. And they sign up for 2 hours with one of our teachers, and all materials, everything is included. They make at least 2 pieces, and then we fire them for them, we glaze them, and they pick them up a couple weeks later. So it's that kind of like one-time experience. And then honestly, it's been a really good entry point for potential members, because people will come in, do the lesson, and be like, I love this. I'm kind of obsessed with it now. I want to learn more. And then they sign up for our membership. So it's been this good catalyst in many ways for people who were curious. And then it's easy to fall in love with it really quickly. And then they sign up for a membership.
So the best way to start would be to do a lesson first, and then you can decide whether you do like it. And if you do, you can choose to get a membership? And is a membership, because I was looking at it a bit, and there's some limitations for, if I'm assuming for people who are potters, if they already have their clay and they want to use your kilns, that's one of your memberships, correct?
Yeah.
But they have a limitation of how much time they can use the
Space, yeah.
but that's not the same for anyone who's wanting to come and get on-demand education, is it? Or is it just kind of
So both of our monthly
unlimited?
memberships we have a kiln firing membership. So people who work from home and maybe have a pottery wheel or hand building at home, but they don't have access to a kiln, can sign up for a kiln firing membership. And they get, it's such an arbitrary like sounding number, but
It is.
6,000 cubic inches, which is, a good amount of space within our kiln. But our monthly members also get that, but they instead get full access to our studio. They have on-demand education from our clay educators. Everything is included in that, with the exception of clay. They just purchased that.
Oh, okay, so it's
Yeah.
a space, not an actual
Yes.
usage of fire. I don't know what I
Right.
was thinking.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's
no,
that's still a
it's-
cool idea that y'all do that. I mean,
Yeah.
I love y'all's model, and people in Houston need to get on board and check it out.
Like
First watch Ghost, and then
Get inspired.
as y'all are talking about, I'm like, man, it's such a bummer that we're so far from Houston,
know.
because
Yeah.
I never worked with clay. I never took a ceramics class, even after 8 years of studying art. It just wasn't. I don't know. It wasn't in the cards for me. And I think it would be so fun. I think it would be such a fun medium to explore and mess with. So such a bummer that we're not closer. Y'all have
anytime
the
you're in
good restaurants.
Houston.
You have the
Yes.
yeah.
Come
well,
see
so-
us.
we can
So-
take a class and
Yeah.
learn, because we'll be a mess.
I know y'all have only been in business for 5 months, but and you don't have to answer this, but is there possible future locations going to be coming down the road? Is that the intent behind the whole scalable?
They're looking at each other and smiling.
Yeah.
But if you can't talk about it yet, that's fine.
No,
I
it's
understand.
fine. I mean, we
They're
can
all dreams at this point.
exactly. Yeah, that's something that we reviewed last night, because every quarter that's like a part of what we look at is like, what were our 3-year goals? Do we need to modify them? What are the 10-year goals? Do we need to modify them? And we definitely want to have locations in other places. I mean, I don't live in Houston, so we always talk about a Galveston one, or like there's other spaces or other cities in Texas that have really strong communities in clay. San Antonio is one of them. Like, there's so much.
Well,
There
we
really
love
is.
that.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So it's definitely, it's written down in our tenure.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, we have
is.
so many dreams of, I think Jess and I referred to HTX Clay as our legacy project. And so it's something that we see ourselves doing for many, many years to come. And so this first building and this structure is very much like a starting place for us. And really it's happening within our walls, but we want it to happen outside of our walls. And that's why we have dreams of, connecting with other artists in different mediums. We work with a couple of artists. We have so many walls in our studio, and we just started incorporating and inviting 2-dimensional artists to come in and do small like exhibitions for a couple of months and putting their artwork on our walls. And sometimes we've talked about, what does it look like working with the school system? Because oftentimes, especially in, elementary to middle school, even high school, art is a thing that typically, and especially ceramics, because teachers don't always have the knowledge to know how to fire kilns and what to do, but oftentimes they're thrown into these classes and expected to do it. So we call ourselves, one of our core values is that we're pothos people. And if you are a plant lover like we are, we think about how resilient and far-reaching pothos vines tend to be. And so we think about HTX Clay, the structure of our building and this community that we're forming, but what does it look like outside of these walls, and how far can we go to continue to cultivate creativity, and know that it's like a human right. It's not a luxury, it's a necessity to be able to experience and to be able to make. And so we always go back to these core values of like, why are we doing this and what does that look like? And I mean, we would love to keep growing and bringing it to other places.
Yeah.
Well, we certainly are rooting for San Antonio location.
Yeah.
I'll just throw
That'd be
that out
Down the
there.
road.
We'll
We'll keep
let you
dreaming
know.
with y'all.
Thank you.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
awesome. Do you have anything else?
I think that's it. I think I'm just right now my mind is just so blown by y'all's business operations and how y'all work together. And I think so many artists struggle with the business side of things. And I feel like you guys could teach a master class to artists on business.
Yeah.
And we don't get that in school. At least I didn't. And
Mm-mm.
I studied for 8 years and I ran off to New York and went to art school. And you know, I didn't get that. I didn't get the business side of things. And it took me marrying him. And he's, you know, more business minded than I am. And him kind of introducing me into thinking a little bit more about that side of things. So it's so cool what y'all have been able to do. And I want to come visit because it is beautiful too. I was looking at the pictures and I saw the artwork that y'all have on the walls. And I thought, oh, wow, that's so cool. They have the 2-dimensional artists.
Yeah.
And the space itself is beautiful. And you can just tell it's nurturing creativity. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's
That was
awesome.
all Abby. The space is all Abby.
I mean, I think we just had dreamed of it being an inspirational space. I feel like, I don't know why, but sometimes I feel like clay artists get like a little bit of like a side eye because their studios are always dusty or like, I don't know, just not always super inspirational. And for us, that was super important to us to create a modern and inspiring space so that members come in and feel a difference. There's a shift from the outside world coming into this new inside world of creativity and it making us like a home for them in that way and feeling at ease. And so, I mean, we like labored over the decisions, everything from paint colors to light pendants, which you did choose, and they're amazing. And furniture and how the space and working with other artists. We hired a local woodworker to be able to make all of our tables. So those things were really important to us. And we feel like it just makes a difference within the space you're creating.
Yeah.
Now, do you offer tours of the
We do.
studio?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have to schedule those, or is
Just
it
show up.
okay?
Yeah. And
Just
we're
come in.
actually going to be having an open house in February too. We just planned that today.
Is the open house, does it showcase the work of the artists, the members, or is it just about the space?
It's mostly about the space. It's really fun whenever people do have tours when there are people working, you know, because it's just really fun to see people kind of in their element. That's the best part of my job is like seeing people just be in their zones or like whether it's like plugged in and just like headphones on and like head down or the opposite, like being a little social butterfly and like walking around and talking to people and like finding connection. Both of those ways of being in our space are so fun for people to see when they walk in. And it happens every time. You know, you can see it happening right in front of you. We talk about this moment we had. It was like November or December of last year where, you know, one of our members was like ordering coffee and was like walking around asking if anybody wanted to get in on their order. And then there were like lots of people working. It just felt like the good kind of like, not busy, just like there was so much happening and so much that we had envisioned and was so theoretical for 2 years straight. And we saw it happening and we looked at each other and we just like had this moment where we both slowed down. And we were like, it's happening. We did it.
Wow.
You
It's
know?
like watery little eyes looking
Yeah.
at each other like, we did this. Because there was just like this beautiful community happening and friendships forming and people making and like asking and cheering each other on of like, wow, you did that. That glaze is so cool. How did you do that? Oh my gosh. Like, I love that piece. And it's just like, that is what we had envisioned. And it's hard sometimes when you're like grinding in the hustle culture. And then you have those very like sweet moments where you look at each other and you're like, okay, it's happening. And it's kind of just like happening. And we're like in this. And it's just, we feel so much gratitude for our Houston community. And we had a Kickstarter and we blew it out of the water and people were so supportive. Those people, our Kickstarter friends and family. And yeah, it was incredible. We had a grand opening with over 300 people and it was just, it blew us away. And the fact that our community has come together and just rallied and rooted for us is we get emotional about
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So please do come in if you're in Houston, or if anyone out there is in Houston, just walk in. And we're open from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Wednesday through Sunday. So that's a lot of not only time to come in, but also a lot of time for our members to just play and experiment and be in the space. So you can come see it in action, and it's really special. It is. I mean, I know I'm biased, but I think it's really special.
I'm excited
yeah.
to go look at
Let's
it.
go to
I'm not-
Houston.
Yeah.
But it's those small moments that kind of remind you of like, this is why we do what we do, because things can get hard and you can be working so hard in it that those gentle reminders of just people working and getting coffee orders just are like, oh yeah, this is what we're here for. This is what we're doing. And I wanted to say, I think there's something to be said about going into a space to go work. A lot of artists have home studios, and not everybody functions the best in a home studio or at home. And that extra push of going into another space where there's other people, maybe there's some accountability, maybe there's some, just also just how beautiful it is. And it's not a corner in your house that's like a wreck and disaster. I think there's something to be said for that would really be beneficial for some artists and people that are wanting to explore the medium, because it's just a beautiful space, and it's not your home.
Yeah.
And you know this too, just from being in art school. Like, it's such like a small time in your life where you have, feedback from other artists, feedback from faculty, and it's sometimes you don't always appreciate it when you're in that moment, and then you leave art school and you are like, I have no one to talk to about this. And so one thing that we've just started implementing this year is these in-person demos given by our teachers, where our members can come and see for free, just part of their membership. But then, so we do like a monthly prompt. So this last month was like lidded vessels. And so we did a demo, and then at the end of the month, they can come in and have feedback and a really low key kind of crit for people to just chat through like what worked, what didn't work, but providing space for people to like talk about their work and receive feedback. Because outside of art school, as an artist, unless you form like a collective or a community quickly, it can be really lonely and it can be isolating, especially when you have a home studio which is nice sometimes to be solo and put your head down and get to work. But I don't know, artists, I think, just throughout history have always found each other and have been able to connect and inspire. And I think that's a really important part of being an artist.
The crits, I remember hating them. I didn't like them at the time. They were so cutthroat. They were so scary, but they were so valuable. And I was always better after each one. And I was re-examining my work, thinking about it, being forced to defend it and forced to defend my choice. Like, you may not agree with it, but that is my choice.
Yeah.
And then there were times where we're like, you know what? They're right. I need to like rethink this. And so that's so cool that y'all offer that outside of the school setting, because not everybody goes to, college for art. And so that's cool that people are able to get that kind of setting. Maybe not as cutthroat.
No,
I don't know.
not cutthroat.
I feel like
Definitely
not cutthroat.
No.
That's not the vibe that y'all put out. So
I think
It's a lot of cheerleading for me. I'm like, that's great. I love it.
Yeah.
It's so good. Try again. Do it again.
nobody's leaving in sad tears,
No.
only happy tears.
only
no.
in grad
I remember in grad school, like sad tears.
Oh, for
sad
sure.
tears.
I've
And
seen
crit.
them. I've witnessed them.
from me directly.
Yes,
No,
yes.
I think there's such a difference between being cutthroat and just being honest and giving like
Yeah.
direct feedback.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, my program has been really good in the sense of like just giving critical feedback in a way that feels healthy. And you leave and you're frustrated at times, but you re-examine why you're frustrated, and that's sometimes often why you are. So
And I know y'all mentioned you hope to work with artists, down in the future. If an artist is seeing this, what would be the best way for them to reach out to you to connect and kind of explore that option?
yeah. I mean, email, email, Instagram, phone. You can connect.
do it
with
all.
us. Yeah. I love working with artists, and so that's it's definitely within my role as visionary. And emailing me directly is Abbi at HTXClay.com. I mean, just however they want to reach out, we'll get it, we'll see it, and we would love to chat and just talk through any of it.
And what are the socials?
HTX Clay is our Instagram at HTX Clay, and then our website is htxclay.com, and then we need to get on the TikTok, but we haven't.
Yes.
That's for this year.
Yes, definitely.
We need lessons from you guys.
I
on
know,
that.
seriously.
Yeah, I've been slacking on TikTok, and now I ping pong, and
Social media is a whole
It's
nother,
hard.
whole nother
I just
thing.
stay off of it completely. So.
yeah, he
That's,
doesn't have any at all.
Yeah.
Nothing.
No.
Well, thank you guys so
Yeah.
much. This has been such a cool conversation, and I'm really excited to come check out your space. And now we have another reason to come to Houston.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. And I wish that this podcast was going to be coming out before your open house, but unfortunately, it'll probably be before summer. So
That's
darn
okay.
it.
That we've got so many opportunities.
Oh, yeah.
Just go to our website and look at workshops and events. And I mean, we just planned out the whole year. So there's lots of fun stuff coming up. So people can go there and check it out.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And check out the new pottery that we got from Jess and Abigail.
Yay.
So
Yeah.
they're pretty awesome. Thank y'all so
Thank
much.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks.
for
All right,
having
y'all.
us.
Thank you, and hasta luego.
Bye.